Hello friends, looking at current affairs for 13th May. The news items picked up from the Hindu newspaper are these 16. We'll look at them in detail. The first one, no mutual consent in triple talaq. So this is regarding the case which is being heard by a 5-judge bench in the Supreme Court on the triple talaq issue. Yesterday we saw Supreme Court had stated that it would look only into triple talaq, not polygamy. And now in triple talaq also is speaking about instant triple talaq case as such. So in instant triple talaq, what happens is that instantaneously by uttering the 3 words, a man can divorce a Muslim woman. So in this is actually considered sinful, is against the provisions of the Quran also. So the Supreme Court has questioned that how something which is sinful can be legalized under Sharia laws. So this is the question being raised. Even the amicus curiae for Supreme Court, Mr. Salman Khurshid, was appointed. We had done this in news earlier too. So he has also stated that instant triple talaq is illegal, sinful according to various schools of Islamic laws. So that is why Supreme Court has also given such a viewpoint now. Then next is Delhi High Court refuses to stay tax case against Young Indian. So Young Indian was actually a body which was established by Congress leaders Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi being the prominent stakeholders, and it had acquired Associate Journals Limited, which was running this newspaper National Herald. So National Herald was actually a newspaper which was started by Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru at the time of independence, before independence actually. So it's 1938 when this was established. It ceased operations in 2008. So this was loss-making, Associate Journals Limited. So this was acquired by Young Indian. But the question which had been raised, a case had been filed as such. So the questions raised were that Associate Journals Limited had assets worth 2,000 crores. So if it was loss-making, why these assets were not sold off, and this was acquired by Young Indian, so it would result indirectly into all these assets also being transferred. So this was the allegation raised, and after BJP came to power, an assessment was required to be made on the taxation of this entity in 2011-12. So that is why the Congress leaders approached the Delhi High Court asking that these income tax proceedings are illegal because that has already been done and passed through. But Delhi High Court has stated no, the income tax proceedings cannot be stayed. You have to give your details to the income tax authority. So this is the judgment now. So here the details are given of the entire case. You don't need to know about that. Just what is important maybe is that National Herald, as it is in news, you should know that it was established by Jawaharlal Nehru. Then next is 3 villages participated in Maoist attack, CRPF. So Central Reserve Police Force has done an internal inquiry and provided a report regarding the Sukma district attack in Chhattisgarh when they were giving protection to a road being constructed here, and the attack took place by the Maoists. So this was the 56-kilometer road which is being constructed in Sukma district. So this will provide connectivity. The construction work has been going on for over 2 years and only 10 kilometers of the road has so far been completed. So here in this region, even telecom connectivity is very low. Only 4% telecom connectivity is available in this region. So that is a concern here. And even in these attacks, the report states that children, women and old age people were used as shields by the Maoists while they were approaching this road construction site. And in this attack, as such, it is also stated that the villagers provided passive involvement. So passive participation was there by the villagers, that is they provided food, shelter to the Maoists, and also this was done under threat because they are threatened by these Maoists, so they do have to provide them food and shelter. Also the Maoists who were attacked and were injured, they were also treated by these villagers. So this is called passive participation, and the report says that this is not unusual. This does take place in left-wing extremists affected regions because of it's under threat. So that's basically the case, but villagers even have denied these allegations. So this is here. Then next is Punjab Haryana ready for talks on Satluj Yamuna link canal dispute. So this is a dispute which has been going on for long now, for years. So Punjab and Haryana have now agreed to rework on this, come to an amicable settlement on this dispute. So Supreme Court had also given its judgment last year. We'll see what was that too. So you can see the whole history of this Satluj Yamuna link canal. So this dispute dates back to when Punjab and Haryana were bifurcated on the basis of language. So Punjab Reorganization Act of 1966 provided for two separate states, Punjab and Haryana. So this was the case of 1966. But this bifurcation actually resulted in Haryana getting lesser water share. So there was this provision made, the center intervened, and this provision made of this Satluj Yamuna link canal being constructed. So this was planned out in 1976. So this was decided. To implement this, Haryana started construction. So this you can see the Satluj Yamuna link canal. So here you see the Yamuna river. This is the Satluj river here. So the Satluj Yamuna link canal would be connecting these two. So this is the Satluj. So two rivers being connected. So this canal construction is required. This is the boundary between Punjab and Haryana. So here this part, the Haryana part of the canal has been constructed. The Punjab part, after a lot of delay, you will see the land was acquired from farmers and construction as such has not been initiated. And later Punjab government announced that this land should be returned back to the farmers. So this is the whole case. We'll see in detail too here. So this was the case in 1976. So the construction began in Haryana for this canal. Punjab delayed it. Till 1980s, nothing took place. Then again the center intervened. 1981, there was an agreement between the two states. Punjab and Haryana both agreed that the reallocation of water would take place considering the needs of Haryana, and this should be completed, this canal should be completed in the next 2 years, means by 1983. But then militants attacked the canal workers here in Punjab and the construction again was stopped. So steps were taken, it was stopped. So after this, in 1996, Haryana government approached the Supreme Court ensuring that this canal is completed. After 1996 approach, actually the order came in 2002. So in 2002, Supreme Court ordered Punjab to complete the canal in 1 year, means by 2003. So this was there. Later a suit was filed by Punjab also against the canal, but that was dismissed. Punjab Assembly, after this 2003 order, in 2004 it passed an act. This was the 2004 act which said that it is terminating all its obligations under the 1981 act, the agreement between Punjab and Haryana. So this agreement was terminated unilaterally by Punjab through an act. So this 2004 act of the Supreme Court, despite the Supreme Court of the Punjab government, despite the Supreme Court judgment, took place, and on this then President APJ Abdul Kalam sought Supreme Court's opinion whether this act is valid or invalid. So this presidential reference, there is something called presidential reference. Presidents can seek the opinion of the Supreme Court. So that is also a jurisdiction of Supreme Court. If you are aware of polity, you would know about it. So this was the development till 2004. After that, what happened? So after 2004 presidential reference, here you can see, so this precedent reference came to Supreme Court in 2016. After that, means not actually the Supreme Court's response on this 2004 presidential reference came in November 2016. But in between, before November 2016 to in March 2016, Punjab passed another law. Punjab Satluj Yamuna Link Canal Land Transfer of Proprietor Rights Bill 2016. Means this is what I was talking of, that the land which had been acquired for the canal construction should be returned back to the farmers. So such a law was passed by Punjab government. This Haryana again filed for its suspension in the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court said that status quo should be maintained by the parties. Land meant for this SYL canal should not be returned back. And in November 2016, again, finally, the Supreme Court gave its verdict and said that Punjab 2004 Act, which unilaterally terminated Satluj Yamuna Link Canal Agreement of 1981, is unconstitutional. Even on this, Punjab government says that is not an order of the Supreme Court. That's just an opinion of the Supreme Court on the presidential reference. And still, it is trying to delay this whole thing. So it's state politics which is involved basically here, rather than looking at the larger picture and rationally taking a decision. So that's what's halting this resolution. So now the news is that both have agreed to come to a consensus and come to an agreement as such, and we'll see what further developments take place in this case. So this was the background. Then next is Goa Civil Code Integrates Society. So this Goa governor has released a study which has been conducted on Goa Civil Code. So Goa is one state which has uniform civil code in it. So that's why this is important. You should know about it. So Goa was earlier a Portuguese colony. So the Portuguese civil code was applicable to all communities in Goa, and that has continued. So that is why a report has come forth on how premarital counseling is a prerequisite for marriage is here, and that has been the case in Goa for so long. So even for Muslim men, they can neither practice polygamy in Goa, nor there is a provision for verbal divorce, that is triple talaq. So that has also been stated in this report. Polygamy in the state is allowed except in certain circumstances it is allowed. That is when the first wife is not able to reproduce till a prescribed age, then polygamy is permitted in this Goa civil code. So this is the report coming here. It says that the communion of properties means property jointly owned by the couple. Then succession laws which are there, compulsory registration of marriage which is provided here. So this has strengthened family values according to this report on Goa civil code. The next is India's first uterus transplant soon. So this is 2 medical centers in Pune and in Bengaluru. They have been given permission by Indian Council of Medical Research to undertake uterus transplant. So this will be the first time that such a procedure would be undertaken in the country. So uterus is essential to bear a child. So that is where the fetus develops. So some females, they are born without a uterus. Some have defects in the uterus. So in such cases, they cannot bear a child. So what happens in this case, this is a hysterectomy procedure which is first required. So hysterectomy, you should know about it. This is a procedure for removal of the uterus. But in this case, the removal of the uterus will also be required, plus a donor uterus would be transplanted. So this uterus transplant which would take place, that would require that all the nerves as such, also blood vessels, vascular pedicles all around the uterus, they should be carefully preserved and reattached to the recipient uterus. So that would be there. Also they would be the female would be put on immunosuppressant so that her body does not reject the donor organ, which is generally done for organ transplants. So this whole procedure would be done, and then pregnancy can be possible only through IVF, in vitro fertilization. So in vitro fertilization, what we understand as test tube babies. And in that IVF procedure also, the chances of success are in 40% of the cases. So that again, if that possibility happens, the fertilization occurs, the woman gets pregnant. Impregnated means the uterus bears the child, and in this case again the delivery as such can take place only through C-section. So C-section means cesarean delivery would take place, and after that the uterus will be removed because the female cannot be kept on immunosuppressants for long. So this will be the whole procedure undertaken for the female to bear her own child in her uterus. So this is being questioned by many medical experts too, because the question is raised that this is not some life-saving organ transplant which is essential. So IVF fertilization and other procedures are possible. It is possible that a female can bear a child with her genetic contribution, but this procedure does not have success too. It has been done in various countries. You can see here it shows in Saudi Arabia it was carried out in 2002, Turkey in 2011. In both cases it failed. And the only successful case is of this organ transplant uterus transplant done in Sweden by this Dr. Max. So this is the only person who has carried this out successfully in 2014. So he alone holds this record, and now it is being planned in India. So the results, how would it be, are awaited now. Then next is India to learn from London Transport. So this is regarding an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, which has been signed between Transport for London and India's Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. So the expertise would be shared on the mobility and efficiency in India's transportation system, the logistics issues involved, because Transport for London has experience in ticketing, providing information, financing, infrastructure. The public transportation system is quite strong here. There are various routes which are possible, various means of transport which are possible. Underground train network is there. An extensive bus network is present in London. They have this light railway, trams, ferries, even cable car. So this would be studied and sought to be incorporated in the country too. Also, the number of road accidents in India is quite high. So how driver licenses are issued in the city also would be studied and incorporated. So this MOU came forth when Mr. Gadkari, the Minister for Road Transport, was in London. So he was also there to launch the NHAI, National Highway Authority of India, has launched its first masala bond. So what is a masala bond? We have discussed this earlier. We look at it again. So this has been launched on the London Stock Exchange too now. So what is a masala bond? That is also important. So a masala bond means a bond which is rupee denominated, but it is issued offshore. So the masala, the term is also given to give an indication that is the bond related to India. Means a bond which will be brought by foreign stakeholders. Foreigners would buy it, but it would be denominated in Indian rupee. So value will be in terms of Indian rupee. So the fluctuations in Indian rupee will be reflected in this bond's value too. So this is rupee denominated bond issued in offshore capital market. So this means the advantage of this is that the foreign exchange risk will be borne by the investor. The investor will have to bear. If there is any foreign exchange variations taking place, the investor will have to bear that cost. So this was initiated by many entities. HDFC was the first Indian entity to list masala bonds on London Stock Exchange, and now NHAI, as was planned to, National Highways Authority of India, has also launched its first masala bond on London Stock Exchange. The next is cyber attacks using leaked NSA hacking tool affect 12 nations. So this is National Security Authority Agency of USA. Here the hacking tools of these were leaked, and cyber attacks have taken place which is involving this ransomware. So this is a malware that encrypts data and locks out the user. So user cannot access their own entities, and because of this, then what happens is that the ransomware actually calls for ransom. So there in this case also a demand message was put forth, that is $300 should be provided to the owner so that the data can be unlocked. So the owner should provide this to the hacker. So such demands were made, but the gravity of the situation here was that it was affecting the hospitals also. So these hospitals were unable to connect to their emergency rooms, patient files, and that was affecting their functioning. So even this is threat to life as well too. So life or death implications were there because of these services being affected. So this ransomware has come in use. The hacker group involved here, they call themselves shadow brokers. So this is the news. The next is US Japan to attend China Silk Road Summit. So this is regarding Belt and Road Connectivity Initiative, the summit which is proposed to be held in China now. So here representation and participation from USA, Japan, South Korea all have also agreed, and they would be sending their representatives. India has not officially announced any participation in this Belt and Road Forum Summit which would take place. Also, one more point which is discussed here is regarding the 100-day trade plan. So this was also hammered out between China and USA. So this 100th day would be on July 16. So by this 100th day, various provisions would be made, because in respect to trade between USA and China, USA has a huge trade deficit. So that is why this trade plan has also been initiated, in which China is providing concessions. It would now allow US-owned card payment services to begin licensing process. Earlier, China's Union Pay system was having a monopoly. Also, US will be allowed to export beef. China will allow US imports also. So all these provisions would be made to facilitate trade between the two countries. So this is regarding that. So this is the Belt and Road Initiative. We have already discussed it quite often. This is the Silk Road Economic Belt, the land route which will be reaching up to Europe from China, and the Maritime Silk Road. Both are part of this initiative. So Maritime Silk Road would also come up to this region. So this is the infrastructure project plan with huge amount of investment from China, and various countries have agreed to projects under this. But India has concerns because of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor project, which is part of Belt and Road Initiative and which passes through Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. And India is protesting against this. And with respect to US-China trade relations, you can see the trade in goods, services, and the amount of trade. The US imports from China are quite high and exports quite low. So there's a huge trade deficit which USA has with trade in with China. So the total trade is $649.4 billion as of 2016 data. Then next is revised data shows IIP growing faster, WPI easing. So this revised data we have already discussed yesterday. IIP, Index for Industrial Production, and WPI, Wholesale Price Index. The revised base year has also been announced. New products would be included in the basket of commodities as such too, for WPI and IIP also. So this has been announced. Base year will change to 2011-12, aligning it with CPI, GDP, GVA base years too. But one more point which has been put forth in this article is that another change which will happen in WPI is that it would no longer incorporate indirect taxes. That is the excise duties. So those adjustments, additions, deductions which would be made will no longer be added. So means earlier WPI was calculated on the basis of base price, price of the commodity, plus the excise duty minus any trade discount. So now this indirect taxes would be excluded, so this will insulate it from any policy changes. So taxation changes would not be reflected in WPI figure. So this will be another modification which will take place in WPI. Also it says that Statistics and Program Implementation Ministry says that there are recommendations to revise indices every 5 years. So this step has been taken now. So here you can see the base year would change, commodities would change. We discussed this yesterday too in IIP. Smartphones, LED TVs, etc. would be added, tablets as such too. And you can see here in WPI, excise duty would be removed from the calculations. Then next is SAT to order SEBI to review Satyam case. So SAT is Securities Appellate Tribunal. So it hears appeals on cases which have been adjudicated by SEBI. So SEBI has given its ruling on Satyam Computer Services case. So the Satyam scam, in this SEBI had ruled that the promoters and senior management of erstwhile Satyam Computer Services would be barred from accessing the capital market for 14 years. So this was its ruling. Also it had asked for them, the promoters and management, to disgorge, means give out about 1,800 crores of ill-gotten gains which it had made. So this was the ruling. On this, appeal was made, and SAT, Securities Appellate Tribunal, has now set aside this order of SEBI. It has said that a review should be done on the matter on the basis of merit, and preferably it should be covered in 4 months by SEBI. Means SEBI should give another another ruling should be given, means again the matter should be looked into on the basis of merit. What has been pointed out specifically is that the directions which were given on disgorgement, basically, so they are unsustainable in law, because SEBI had made disgorgement is required 1,008 crore, but then this should segregate. So disgorgement should be for only the unlawful gains that should be coming forth. So profits which have been legally made had to be separated. So this details were not looked into, and the disgorgement order was given. So that is why a relook has been sought as such. So this is there. So now we'll see what SEBI provisions, what SEBI would do on this matter further. So SAT, you can see it's a statutory body just like SEBI. So it has its powers under the SEBI Act of 1992. So it adjudicates on appeals which are made against the orders of SEBI and other adjudicating officers under this Act. Then the last, this is the details of the SEBI scam, Satyam scam also. So Satyam had planned to buy 2 firms. 2 firms were called Mehtas. So Mehtas is reverse of Satyam. So these 2 firms were established, and SEBI planned to buy these 2 firms for an amount of $1.6 billion. So when this was announced, the investors, the shareholders, investors of Satyam made a hue and cry, and this order had to be called back in 2 days. So this was recalled in 2 days, but then questions were raised and the whole scam came to the fore. It came to be known that SEBI, even the SEBI chairman, Mr. Ramalingam Raju, he resigned and admitted to fraud. What was Satyam trying to do was, it was fudging its accounts. It was showing unsustainable profits, though it did not have. So means if you show profit, you will gain profits. So for this, the whole fudging of accounts which was done, then it had to be managed. So trying to manage that, what it wanted to do was that it will show a buying of these firms, and the money which would be gathered up here would be used to fill up that, that amount of money which was shown as profits which did not exist. So that's what it was trying to cover up, what it was lying on. But then it became unsustainable, and the whole issue came out in the open when a confession was made by the senior management here. So this was the case. So in this case, even PricewaterhouseCoopers, the auditing authority was also questioned in this case as well. The Satyam entity was taken over. Tech Mahindra was selected as the strategic investor in this case, and which agreed to pay 2,900 crore for Satyam's stake. And on this case, CBI was also investigating, and SEBI also gave its ruling, because even insider trading frauds were done. Even there were allegations that that fake employees were also listed in the list as such, so that money can be given out to them, in the sense it would be transferred and would be used to make up for that non-existent profit. So such were the steps which were taken, you can see. So this was the Satyam Mehtas which was established. So you can see, so fill the gap between the actual profits of the company and the profits that were shown in records. So there was a gap, it was showing profits which it did not have. So then finally a confession had to come forth. So there was a 7,000 crore as such, more than 7,000 crore shortfall. So fudging of accounts, even insider trading violations were also, allegations were raised against Satyam brothers, these Raju brothers as such, who were the owners of Satyam. So you can see here, CID had also told the court that there were only 40,000 employees in Satyam, but it was showing 53, so more than 10,000, 13,000 around employees were not existent but shown, because for them around 200 crore rupees every month was withdrawn, showing it as payment being done to these employees. So such internal fudging of accounts was done by Satyam. Then next, relief as IT filing norms eased. So we know about Aadhaar PAN linkage. This was done through the Finance Act of 2017. So in the budget was passed. Discuss this quite often, that budget passing means two bills being passed: Appropriation Act bill and Finance bill. So both become acts, means budget has passed. So Finance Act. Appropriation means how the money would be allocated, and finance means where the money would come from. So all taxation related matters come under Finance Act. So in this budget as such, Finance Act, this provision was also added, that Article 139AA. So section 139AA of the Income Tax Act was inserted, in which it provided that Aadhaar should be linked to PAN cards from now on. And this would come into effect from 1st July 2017. So now a notification has come from the center which states that this Aadhaar PAN linkage would not be mandatory for elderly senior citizens of 80 years or above, and also for residents of 3 states: Assam, Jammu and Kashmir and Meghalaya. So in Assam and Meghalaya, the number of people, residents who have registered for Aadhaar are quite low. Aadhaar penetration here is around 7% in Assam and only 9% in Meghalaya. Though Jammu and Kashmir has a good registration, but still Jammu and Kashmir has also been excluded considering the situation there. So this is the notification which has come from the government now, clarifying on this Aadhaar PAN linkage being made mandatory. Also, the case is before the Supreme Court. We have been hearing that it has been challenged. Insertion of the section 139AA has also been challenged in the Supreme Court, and the hearing is taking place. Then the last news item is China tests a lunar palace on Earth. So China has planned and developed this Yugong-1. So this translates as lunar palace. So this will be simulating, means keeping conditions same as the lunar environment, that is the moon's environment. So moon's environment will be simulated here. It will be a sealed laboratory. 4 Chinese students have been selected who will live in this for up to 200 days, and they would be having experiments done. The waste would be treated, biofermentation would take place, experimental crops, vegetables would be grown, food would be grown, prepared here with even waste bioproducts. So all this experiment would take place. Initially for 60 days, the 4 students would stay, then they would be relieved by another group of 4 who would stay up to 200 days. So this, it is planning to simulate the lunar environment and undertake experiments, because almost after a decade actually, China is planning to send its first man to moon as well. So that is there. Also China in April 2017, it had sent this first space cargo spacecraft. So it was carrying cargo. This was Tianzhou-1. So this has docked to the Tiangong-2. So Tiangong-2 is the orbiting space lab of China. So Tiangong-1 was also launched, and Tiangong, which it has lost contact with, so China does not admit. But Tiangong-2 is presently an orbiting space lab of China. So this is similar to what ISS is. So International Space Station is also a orbiting space lab. So this is also the orbiting space lab launched by China, and now cargo was also sent to it. For the first cargo spacecraft went in April 2017 and it successfully docked here. So this is the news. So that is it. Thank you.